everybody. Sanbonani nonke, and welcome to our city to those who are visiting from overseas. This is indeed a beautiful city. It's filled with beautiful people. I think apart from our beautiful landscape, our harbor, all the beautiful things that go with it, the most beautiful asset is the people in the city. And we have a vision for the city that it will be a city that brings healing, not only to its own people, but to the rest of South Africa and the rest of our continent. We believe that, and we are starting to see that happen. So, my name is Stephanie, as Abonga or Bones has said. I'm a medical doctor by background, mother of 3 kids, and the wife of this gorgeous man, Monty, who is sitting in the audience. And I would love to tell you my personal story, which links into the story of Zoe Life, which is the group of people that work together here in the city. And the story that I want to tell you is really a story of my own personal healing and how that healing took place here in this city and what God's done with that. So about 20 years ago, I found myself in a very desperate place. I grew up as a Christian. I married a missionary who has been to Bible college. I was going to be a doctor and, do all of these good things that doctors are supposed to do. And I was busy studying to do my specialization in the UK. And in a very comprehensive way, my life fell apart in all ways. I developed a mental health illness while I was studying to be a psychiatrist. How funny is that? Which was very, very bad. I was unable to think clearly. I was unable to get out of the bed in the morning. I was crying all the time. I was anxious. I couldn't do my work. And for almost 2 years, I was treated by psychiatrists in the UK who, at the end of that 2-year period, sat my husband down. I had a little baby, 2-year-old baby, and they said to Monty, please take your wife back home to South Africa. She must never work again. We can't fix her. We've tried every drug, we've tried every possible therapy, and actually we don't think that she is ever going to get better. So our advice to you is take her home, get a carer or a nurse or someone to be with her, raise your child, but don't ever let her work again. Possibly give her menial work, like housework or some sort of work in the kitchen or something that doesn't require decision making, but please take her home. So my kind of mental health was in tatters. My marriage was in a pretty bad state after years of being not well. Financially, we had, because I was a doctor, I could get credit, right? And so living in the UK with no access to the benefits for 2 years, no work, I just went to all the banks and got MasterCards so that we could live, which they did because I was a doctor. So we had a huge amount of debt. And we got on the airplane January 2000, and we came back to South Africa in a very, very, very bad way. And at that time, I remember just saying to God, I cannot make another decision by myself without hearing your voice, because I have just stuffed up so badly. It's just like every decision I've made in my life up until this point hasn't been a good one. I've made bad judgment calls, I've made bad decisions, and so from now on, I actually can't take a breath or do a single thing without hearing your voice and doing what you say. And of course, it was a new thing for me. I didn't really know the Holy Spirit, and I had to learn how to do that in this place of also being a little bit nutty. So that was the beginning of an incredible journey, because in this space of complete craziness, I get these 3 prophetic words over my life. And the words were, I'm going to give you the spirit of Deborah to make judgments for a nation, and I'm going to let you make judgments on behalf of the poor, and I want you to come in and invest yourself in HIV in Durban. And I'm like, really? For real? I can't even get out of bed in the morning. I can't remember any of my medicine. I can't make any decisions. I don't know how to do that. And God is really interesting. When you're at your lowest, He gives you this huge thing, this huge vision, which we hold out for our city, when we can't even see it. And God took me into this space where I was working in a squatter camp in Cato Manor with women who were dying of HIV. I was dying of depression. And I'm like, God, I can't bring any solutions to these people. What am I supposed to do? I can't think. And he said, I don't need your solutions. You need to build relationships. I was like, oh, but I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to help people. And he just kept talking to me about building relationships. And in that space, I started understanding our common humanity, our common brokenness, and the fact that we all are wounded, and we are so badly wounded, we don't even know how badly we are wounded. And so I met these incredible women who were dying, who were giving birth to babies, who were HIV uninfected, and they knew that in a year or two without treatment, they were going to die. And we cried together, we prayed together, and out of that space and that place of love and brokenness and relationship, I started calling out to God for His ways for my friends. And God is so faithful. He started to give dreams, visions, models of what we could do together. And as I started out working these in groups with these women started getting better. And it wasn't anything very clever. It was really relational. It was about affirming identity and affirming worth, and about getting over the fact that you've got HIV. You can tell it to each other. We don't have to keep secrets. It was simple things, kingdom things, otherworldly things. Where everybody else was seeking for treatments and protocols, we were building relationship, which is exactly what Jesus did, isn't it? Where God so loved the world that He gave us a strategic plan. Actually, no. God so loved the world that He gave us His Son. Yeah? So it was a very interesting time. And in that time, these models that we tested in Cato Manor got to become known. I remember working with Taki. I remember working with just incredible people at that time who God was also depositing bits of the puzzle to. And over time, they got taken up by government. And, Clinton Foundation phoned me up one day and said, well, we are advising the government on the National Antiretroviral Rollout Plan. Can you please give us your model that you've been using? I'm like, what? I don't know how to do that. And within a few years, we were working with government alongside serving to provide policies and models and all sorts of incredible things that had come straight from heaven and were now being served to our government. Because why? Because the governance of Christ rests on our shoulders. It's ours. It's ours from heaven to bring down and to offer to our cities and to our country. And so one day God gave me this word, Zoe, life. I mean, I had never known the Greek word Zoe. I'd read John 10:10. Christ came to give us life and life to the full. But that was that word Zoe, and something leapt in my heart when I heard that word. And so I did this search through all the Bible of, where are all those words? And I found it in the river of life that flows from the city. From the city flows this river of Zoe life. It's just coming out of the city. And along the river, or the banks of the river, are these trees. And what's on the trees? It's leaves for the healing of the nation. And I just got gripped by this idea that this river can flow from our city, from Durban, and it can flow forever. It's sustainable, a sustainable city. Sustainable healing can come from this city. And a group of people gathered around at that time and formed really what is now an organization called Zoe Life, which is not the real Zoe Life. The real Zoe Life is the life of God, but it's a container to start receiving from the Lord what He has for the city. And so little by little, God started telling us more things, and then we would do them. Deirdre, all sorts of people at Sandy, we started hearing God's heart for the children in this city and in this province. One day God told us The children in KwaZulu-Natal are my end-time army. I'm raising them up to be my end-time army. But they have HIV and they don't even know it. So instead of living to 20, 30, 50 years old with destiny and just incredible things that God's placed in them, they're going to die by the time they're 10. I was like, oh my word, like what do we do with that? And so a group of people got together and we prayed, and God gave one person a song, and he gave Sandy he gave her all these stories for children which could help them understand HIV and take the sting out of it, take the fear out of it, and put hope into it and put life into it. And help these children with grieving and bereavement and hope and a destiny. And little by little, these stories were created, and we tested them out in clinics. And let me tell you, it was not easy to convince our donors at that time that we should be doing this, because children were not on the radar. So we were kind of hustling here and there to try and afford this. But as we did it, it was working. It was like a miracle. It was children were coming for their testing. There was no fear. They were embracing their life. They were getting better. Their caregivers were kind of not living under shame as they had been before. And all of these kingdom values were just being released into these children. And then a weird thing happened. In 2012, we lost all of our funding. 70 of us working in an office were all of a sudden out of work. And I'm like, God, what are you doing? You know, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who said, I don't know why you just don't get a real job. You know, you're a doctor. You should just go and work in private practice and just leave this stuff. And I just remember being so grieved, like, God, how do we do this? How do we live sacrificially, but also live this a real life? We've got bills to pay, and God was really gracious at that time. He landed up during that time putting our children's program on the desk of national government, and within a few days we had a call from national to say, we don't have a strategy for children at national level. Could you please come and share your strategy? We gathered a little bit of money together to try and get there because we hadn't been paid for a year. And as we spoke this thing, there was not a single person in that government forum that said no. They said, this is our strategy. We would like to adopt it. This is the strategy for the children in this country. And so from incredible brokenness, from a person who had nothing to stand on, not a brain cell that was working in her head, to God giving a word, which thing wins? The word of God never returns to him void. It never returns to him void. And so the word over this city is this will be a healing city. This will be a city where we take ownership, because guess what? That river of life is in us. Jesus said living waters will flow from your belly. It doesn't flow from the city center, guys. It flows from us. So we are not called to outsource health of the city to doctors and government. We contain the healing of the nation in this river and in the trees with the healing leaves that is not only going to feed this city, but is going to feed this nation and this continent. So thank you very much. I think my time's up, or do I have a little bit more? 4 more minutes. Okay. All right. I have 4 more minutes. So I guess that's the story to date. But I think God has shifted gears for us as a body of believers. I feel like we were in Ireland 2 weeks ago, and somebody said to me, it feels like all over the world, it's exactly what Russell was saying, all over the world, people are starting to congregate around what God is doing. Somebody else said it to me like this: it feels like for the past 20 years, the visionaries have been walking this walk with their baggage, all alone, or with teams around them, and all of a sudden they're all arriving at the same train station on the same platform at the same time, and you're kind of wondering, what is God doing? And I feel like this is the season that we're in as a city, and God has changed gears for us. So it's no longer about health or education or whatever. It's about building a nation together that we co-own. We own the city. We own it. And we need to co-create with God the new city that he has shown us. And so I feel like as Zoe Life, as an organization, we haven't done this very well. We feel constrained. We feel like we haven't built well with local churches. We feel like we've done well with government, but we haven't figured out how to be a kingdom organization in a man-made organizational structure. We haven't figured out how to resource the work that we're doing without needing overseas donors who want to tell us not to do the thing that God told us to do. We haven't figured out those things. And I feel like God is going to give people in this room and in this city the way to do this new thing. We can't do it the same. We can't even begin to think of doing things the same way as we've been doing them in the past. So our invitation is to please build with us, build relationship with us as we seek to build with you, to take down what God has for us and to be bold and take enormous risks, because it's not going to look the same as it looked for the past 20 years. So thank you very much, everyone. We do have a stand if you want to engage with us. And yeah, let's this be the city that brings healing to our nation. Thank you very much.